lunch is fabulous. I saw the place on IG. We tried it for lunch. We were blown away by the food and the service. The restaurant has an inviting atmosphere and a dynamic vibe.
Over the years, Lionel has catered most major black events in Los Angeles, including all of our KBLA Talk 1580 gatherings. But now he has his own spot, Lionel's Soul Food Cuisine, and you need to check it out at 8501 South Vermont Avenue in Los Angeles. Oxtails, baked or fried chicken, meatloaf, turkey chops, pork chops, catfish, short ribs, and all the fixins. Collard greens, mac and cheese, yams, red beans, black-eyed peas, and more. And of course, hot water cornbread, satisfying drinks, and delicious desserts. Lionel's is a great place for brunch, lunch, or dinner. If it's good enough for us, it's good enough for you, because we've got your black. So, head on over to Lionel's Soul Food Cuisine at 8501 South Vermont Avenue in Los Angeles and tell Lionel you heard about it on KBLA Talk 1580.
It's the best of Stevie Wonder, all 3 hours of our program today. Happy Juneteenth to you, in case you've just tuned in. It's June, and so every day in the month of June, as we celebrate Black Music Month, so it's not just Juneteenth, it's Black Music Month. And so we choose a different artist every day, and we play the best of their music, all 3 hours of our program. I call Stevie the GOAT because he is. So many hits, so little time. Nowhere in the world in 3 hours we could ever do justice to the catalog of Stevie Wonder. But it's always nice to hear Stevie. I call Stevie the GOAT in part because there's no occasion for which Stevie has not written a song. I don't care what it is. There's a song that Stevie's written for the occasion. And he is so beloved the world over for all the obvious reasons. And so today, our artist in residence is Stevie Wonder. We're playing the best of Stevie all 3 hours of our program today, weaving in and out of these amazing conversations with these great guests, like the one I want to introduce you to right now. Her name is Corinna Barrett Lain. She's a law professor and author of the new text, Secrets of the Killing State, the untold story of lethal injection. We will talk in this hour about the state-sponsored act of violence known as the death penalty, even as we celebrate Juneteenth. I was just in great conversation with Judge LaDoris Cordell about this day, and I think what comes out of that conversation is that even as we celebrate Juneteenth, this day is very sobering. That celebration needs to be sobering, given all that's happening around us, all that this administration is doing to push back on anything and everything that is black. It's a grim moment in America. And so as we celebrate on the one hand, Juneteenth, we have to be, again, sober in our analysis about where we are on this path to freedom. And one of the issues that has seemed intractable, one of the issues that is perennially coming up in conversations over the course of my 30-plus year media career is this issue of state-sponsored violence, again, better known as the death penalty. And so I am delighted again to welcome Professor Corinna Barrett Lain on this program to talk about her new book, Secrets of the Killing State, the untold story of lethal injection. Professor, good to have you on. How are you today?
Hey, I'm fine. Thanks so much for having me on, Tavis. And I must say, I've been loving your music. So,
oh, thank you. I appreciate it. Well, yeah,
Juneteenth.
I received that. Happy Juneteenth to you as well. Yeah, it's easy to love the music of Stevie Wonder. Nothing. No effort required to love Stevie's work. Let me just ask you, what your sense is of our having this conversation. I never know how these things are going to work out. You know, my producing team works out my schedule and puts things on the calendar as they fit. But I was looking last night at my schedule for today and, of course, preparing for this conversation and just thinking about what it means to be having this conversation about state-sponsored violence, about the death penalty on this day, on Juneteenth. You care to frame that as you see it, for starters?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Happy to. Of course, the book is about lethal injection, but I'm a death penalty scholar, so I've been studying the death penalty for about 18 years. And the racism in the death penalty, we could start with that. And historically, about half of all murder victims are Black. But also historically, about 75% of the executions are for murders of white people. And in fact, if the next 2 executions go forward, then 30 of the 31 executions in this country this year will be for murders of white people. And a lot of times when people think about the death penalty and racism and the death penalty, they think about Black defendants receiving the death penalty more than white defendants. They think about racism that way. And that's true. That absolutely is true. But, we also see a super strong, in fact, stronger correlation of using the death penalty for white victims. And so it goes, the racism is inextricable from the death penalty. It goes back to the days of Black codes and lynching. But, it moves from, whose life are we going to take all the way to whose life are we going to protect.
It's going to be a great hour. We're going to learn a lot in this hour. Again, it's Juneteenth, but we need to just root ourselves in this moment and understand that while we are celebrating on the one hand, we are under attack on every front by this administration. And I am fascinated, as always. You hear me say this all the time. It's the backstory that gets me. And so before I jump straight away into the text, the new book, Secrets of the Killing State, The Untold Story of Lethal Injection, written by our guest, law professor Corinna Barrett Lain, I am fascinated to know how and why one becomes a scholar on the death penalty. How and why does one become a scholar on the death penalty? We'll start there when we come forward and go from there. You're listening, and I'm glad about it, to Tavis Smiley.
Generous listening. Charitable listening. It's why everybody wants to talk to Tavis. The conversation continues when we come forward.
Is reviewing life insurance on your to-do list? Now's the perfect time to add it. A friend recently told me that securing life insurance sooner rather than later can help you lock in lower rates for years to come. So I bumped this up on my list and got it done. I called SelectQuote and couldn't believe how easy and affordable life insurance is. I'm 40 and got a $500,000 policy for $16 a month. My husband's also 40 and his $500,000 policy was only $18 a month. Plus, with SelectQuote's same-day coverage, there was no medical exam required, and we were covered by the time we hung up. Knowing I have this checked off my list feels amazing, but the peace of mind knowing my family is protected feels even better.
Call SelectQuote at 1-800-729-7070. That's 1-800-729-7070. Or go to SelectQuote.com to get your free quote today. That's 1-800-729-7070. Details on example rate at SelectQuote.com.
Make a move into a home of your own. With City National Bank's Ladder Up Home Loan Grant, you could receive up to $20,000 that you never need to pay back. Use it toward your down payment, save on closing costs, or to buy down your mortgage rate. Find out more at cnb.com/ladderuphome. City National, here for every stage of the journey. Property must be in a qualifying market in California, New York, or New Jersey. Additional terms and conditions apply. Not all applicants will qualify. Terms are subject to change without notice. City National Bank is an equal housing lender. Member FDIC. NMLS number 536994.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. The Autopsy Initiative provides a second autopsy free of charge for victims' families who have lost their loved ones due to a police-related death. The services offered through the initiative include the completion of a second autopsy, disclosure of preliminary findings, and a final autopsy report. A police-related death is when an individual is harmed by police officers using deadly force, which results in an individual's death. Police-related death includes in-custody deaths, including those that arise during contact with law enforcement officers during arrest, pursuit, booking, transport, or incarceration. The Autopsy Initiative has a team of board-certified pathologists on call. An autopsy request may be completed by anyone with a close relationship with the victim, which may include the victim's spouse, partner, relative, close friend, or lawyer. To request a free second autopsy for a victim of police violence, please visit knowyourrightscamp.com. That's knowyourrightscamp.com. Then click on Autopsy, then click on Request. At KBLA, we believe in justice for victims of police violence. We say their names, and we don't black down. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Helping to make you the most knowledgeable person in your circle of friends. This is Tavis Smiley.
Celebrating Juneteenth today and also celebrating the amazing, phenomenal catalog of one Stevie Wonder. It's June. Black Music Month continues, and so every day this month, you know how we do it. We choose a different artist of the day and feature the best of their contribution, all 3 hours of our program. And today, it is Stevie Wonder, all 3 hours of Tavis Smiley. Our guest in this hour is Corinna Barrett Lain, a law professor and author of the new book, Secrets of the Killing State, The Untold Story of Lethal Injection. Before I get straight away into the book, Professor, I am fascinated, as I said earlier, by how and why one becomes a scholar. I'm glad you're doing it. Somebody has to, and there aren't many doing it much better than you. But how and why does one become a scholar on matters of the death penalty?
Well, it started in the sense that I'm a legal historian. I'm a constitutional historian, and I wrote a piece on the 1972 decision, Furman versus Georgia. You know, a lot of people don't know this, but in 1972, the Supreme Court struck down the death penalty as it then existed. Now, the court brought it back in 1976, so there's that. But I started, you know, as a legal historian looking at that decision. And once you start looking at the death penalty, you really can't look away. And I remember the moment for me. It was, I came across this case out of Texas, and the lawyer had fallen asleep. It was a capital case. You know, here's this person on trial for his life. And the lawyer did not say, you know, oh, I was resting my eyes, I was concentrating, you know, it was nothing like that. The lawyer said, yeah, I fell asleep. It wasn't a very important part. And I remember being outraged and thinking, when you're on trial for your life, it's all
Oh, yeah.
important part.
That's right.
And then I was really shocked by what the court said there. This was a trial court, but it said the Constitution says you're entitled to an attorney. It doesn't say he has to be awake. And I think a lot of people today, to the extent that they support the death penalty, it's because they have certain assumptions about it. You know, there are these assumptions of procedural fairness and such, and not, maybe that it's not racist. None of those assumptions are true, not a single one of them. So that's how I started my journey.
It is arresting to hear you say, you told it and said it so smoothly, but the words just fell on me, as I'm sure they did many in this audience listening across the country right now to this conversation, that it says you are entitled to counsel, but not entitled to counsel that's actually awake. That is, I recall that case. I mean, you said it, my mind went back to it, but just to hear you say it again just makes my skin crawl. I'm looking, and I want to read this right quick. Speaking of making my skin crawl, I want to read one of these 200 plus executive orders that Donald Trump has signed since coming back to the White House on January 20th, 2025. And on the day, this executive order is signed by Donald Trump on the day he returns to the White House. He told us there were a number of things he was going to do on day one. This is one of the things that he signed, one of the executive orders he signed on day one. We were just talking earlier today to Judge LaDoris Cordell about the way in which a retired judge, the way that Donald Trump is just exploiting and politicizing and using these executive orders to various ends and aims. But the day he returns to the White House, he signs this particular executive order called Restoring the Death Penalty and Protecting Public Safety. That's the title of it. This presidential action is called Restoring the Death Penalty and Protecting Public Safety. You heard our guest, Professor Corinna Barrett Lain, suggest that in 1972, we did away with the death penalty as it was being instituted then. So fast forward from 1972 to 2025, January 20th, Donald Trump is back in the White House. And this is the first paragraph. I want to just read Section 1, just the first paragraph of Section 1 in this executive order that Donald Trump signed, and let Professor Barrett Lain respond. Section 1 is called Purpose, and here is how it reads. Capital punishment is an essential tool for deterring and punishing those who would commit the most heinous crimes and acts of lethal violence against American citizens. Before, during, and after the founding of the United States, our cities, states, and country have continually relied upon capital punishment as the ultimate deterrent and only proper punishment for the vilest crimes. Our founders knew well that only capital punishment can bring justice and restore order in response to such evil. For this and other reasons, capital punishment continues to enjoy broad popular support. There's a whole lot there to unpack. We've got time, but respond to those words in any way that you wish, Professor Corinna Barrett Lain.
Can I swear on this program? Can I say bullshit?
I think you just did, and we'll bleep it out. But I sense your sentiment, so tell me more.
Well, I mean, from the last thing you said, I'll try to work backwards.
Sure.
But this executive order saying that the death penalty enjoys broad popular support is simply not true. Mm-hmm. So Gallup, by the way, asks the public what they think about the death penalty, whether they support it, every single fall. It's been doing this since the 1930s. Mm-hmm. And this last fall, even as the election turned out in distressing ways, mm-hmm. For some at least, death penalty support in this country was a 50-year low. It's 53%. It is barely a majority. And among millennials, it's 47%. And among Gen Z, So this is the 20 or 12 to 27 age, 42% favorite. So if you want to know where the death penalty is going,
Yeah.
you look at public support. The public barely supports this. And I remain convinced if they knew, they would not support it. Good people on both sides of the aisle would not support it. I guess the other thing I'd respond to is this notion of not only does the death penalty enjoy broad support, it does not, but that it is essential or even minimally effective at crime control. There was a study, frankly, of studies, but there was a study, the National Academy of Sciences came out and said, stop talking about deterrence. Stop making these claims because they're not supported by the studies. They're not supported by the science. And that report said, look, we've looked at all of these studies, and there's one place where the report says, we're disappointed that we couldn't, say one way or another. But what they did say was, look, whatever reasons you have for supporting the death penalty, don't put deterrence. Just don't do it because it's actually not true. And one of the reasons it's not true, I mean, there are multiple, but, one of the reasons is these people who commit, really these terrible crimes. And of course, all murder is terrible, but, they're almost always high. They are profoundly disturbed about, depending upon the year, about a third of the people that we execute have severe mental illness under the DSM-5. So that whole theory assumes rational thinking. And to the extent that they were thinking rationally, what they think is they're not going to get caught. And, for every death penalty state, the alternative is life without parole. I mean, true life without parole. And so, and 10% of the people that we execute every year are volunteers because life without parole is so bad that they're like, okay, just kill me. So, that whole notion is just simply not true. But one other point I'd make, before moving on, Tavis, is how expensive the death penalty is.
Yes.
So Ohio just did a study in 2024 and, looked at the entire death penalty system. And they disagreed a little bit on the range of the savings from getting rid of the death penalty, but it was between 121 million and 363 million. That's the additional cost of the death penalty over and above what it would cost for life without parole to just sentence everyone to life without parole. And in Florida, there was a study that found 51 million. 51 million is what Florida spends per year to maintain the death penalty over and above what it would cost to punish all first-degree murders with LWOP. And that is incredibly draconian. All first-degree murders, house them for the rest of their lives, their natural lives, and you're still going to save 51 million. And in fact, they went on to say, okay, here's the cost. Here's what it costs to run this system in this amount of years. Here's how many executions we got out of that system. How much then did it cost per execution? The answer was $24 million. $24 million. Now, I come at it by saying these are lives worth saving. And that's an interesting thing from my findings. But even if one didn't believe these were lives worth saving, one might say these are lives not worth taking.
Yeah.
What can you do with $24 million? If you really, want, if you want to take care of cold cases, if you want to investigate crimes, that's where you put your money.
I got 2 minutes now. We can continue, of course, when we come forward. This is why I do these conversations for 1 hour at a time. We need to drill down on this stuff. But in the 2 minutes I have now, let's start your response. And again, we'll continue when we come forward. I don't normally ask 2 questions at once, but I think you can connect these dots in your own way. Why then, to your earlier point, does this narrative persist that capital punishment is the best deterrent for heinous crimes? And to the point you made just now, why you think these numbers don't matter to everyday people? $24 million per execution. Why do the numbers not matter? Why does this narrative persist?
I think it's a lack of education. That's what it's all about. When the Ohio study came out, one of the Ohio officials, and my understanding is he's a supporter of the death penalty, but even he called it, quote, a stunning amount of money to spend on a program that does not achieve its purpose. So I think there's an assumption out there that, it costs more to put someone away for life. I hear people saying, well, I don't want my taxpaying dollars to pay for housing them. And I just want to say, girl, if you knew.
If you knew, yeah. If you knew. Okay, I've got 90 seconds now. I want you to tee this up. Just tee it up for me, and then we're going to jump into it when we come forward. The book is called Secrets of the Killing State, The Untold Story of Lethal Injection. So this book specifically is about lethal injection. Why that particular issue as a part of this whole conversation about death penalty as your focus?
Well, there was a professional reason, a research reason, and there was a personal reason. And as far as the professional reason, I'm a researcher. I kept seeing botched executions in the papers. And my research question was, why are they so bad at this? Aside from my own views on the death penalty, but we know how to put down our beloved pets. We know how physician-assisted suicide works. We put people under and cut open their chest and do all sorts of painful things every single day. So why are we seeing these torturous deaths? And maybe you'll allow me to talk about the personal reason when we come back.
I will do that. That was very nicely done, by the way. You did it right on time. I love guests who can cooperate with me, especially when I'm up against the clock. She's pretty good at it. Corinna Barrett Lain is her name. The book is called Secrets of the Killing State, The Untold Story of Lethal Injection, and you will have time to unpack the personal reason when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
Why does Tavis say when we come forward? Because he's not going back. And you don't have to go back either. Forward ever, backward never. More of Tavis Smiley when we come forward.
I'm Alexandria Ikamoni with BIN News Now.
No Kings, no King! No Kings, no King!
Organizers of the No Kings protest have called it one of the largest mass demonstrations in U.S. history and have scheduled another round on July 17th in honor of civil rights activist John Lewis, who died on that day in 2020. Reparations may be coming for some people who live in California. One bill would establish the process for verifying genealogical eligibility, allowing access to reparations for those who can prove their lineage. The other proposes the creation of the Bureau for Descendants of American Slavery, a state agency dedicated to providing historical truth about slavery. Former President Joe Biden is in Galveston, Texas for a Juneteenth event. Juneteenth marks the date, June 19, 1865, when slaves in Texas finally learned about the Emancipation Proclamation. Get BIN News Now on demand on the iHeartRadio app.
Temecula Valley Balloon and Wine Music Festival by Events.com is happening June 20th through 22nd, featuring Walker Hayes, Cody Jinks, Alabama, Russell Dickerson, Midland, Big and Rich, and more. Get 3-day or single-day tickets now at TemeculaValleyFestival.com.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
We now know that Dodgers owner Mark Walter has no limits on his bank account. Walter paid $10 billion to buy the Lakers, the highest sales price in history for a U.S. sports franchise. The purchase ends a remarkable 46-year era for the Buss family. Jerry Buss bought the Lakers in 1979 for $67.5 million. the Lakers won 11 NBA championships for the Buss family. This year's NBA championship could be decided tonight. It's Game 6 of the NBA Finals in Indianapolis. With a 3-2 lead, the Oklahoma City Thunder can claim their first NBA title with a win over the Indiana Pacers. 5:30 tip-off on ABC. The Angels beat the Yankees again in New York. They hung on for a 3-2 win. They can sweep the 4-game series with a win today in New York. The Dodgers got a game-winning homer from Will Smith in the bottom of the ninth to beat San Diego 4-3. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
Tustin Auto Center is having its used car clearance sale you can't afford to miss. Just visit us at Tustin Ranch Road in the 5 Freeway. Call 949-TAC-CARS or check out TustinAutoCenter.com.
Tustin Auto Center, let's ride.
Paid for by government.com. Did you know? The United States Mint has issued a new Morgan silver dollar coin in proof condition for the first time. Not only that, they are also minted in 99.9% pure silver for the first time ever in history. Coin experts are calling this an amazing opportunity for anyone that knows the enduring popularity of Morgans. But you must hurry. Only 400,000 of these legal tender silver dollars were issued. These first ever Morgan silver dollars are brand new with stunning mirror-like finish. Minted by the iconic San Francisco Mint. Call now and you're guaranteed a new first ever 99.9% pure silver proof Morgan dollar. To learn more, call 1-800-973-9717. If you order now, you will receive a free coin collector bonus pack, a $25 value, free with every order. Call 1-800-973-9717 now to secure your new Morgan silver dollars before they are gone. That's 1-800-973-9717.
1, 2. You ready?
Somebody make some noise in this joint.
KBLA Talk 1580 celebrates its 4th anniversary this year on Juneteenth.
Here we go again.
Hard to believe 4 years has gone by so fast.
Oh my God!
But here we are, still standing, still loving and serving our people as best we can.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
To celebrate our 4th anniversary, we have 4 big events, and you're invited to all of them.
She got a lot to say. Let's do this.
Let's get it on.
On Wednesday, June 18th, we go live on C-SPAN for the 2nd consecutive year with our Climate Justice Plus Black Health Symposium. Tavis Smiley will moderate an all-star panel of thinkers and influencers as we continue our vitally important climate justice work.
Hey, Tavis Smiley, call the bomb.
On Thursday, June 19th, you're invited to join us as we celebrate Juneteenth and our 4th anniversary. There will be plenty of food, fun, great music, good vibes, and all of your favorite KBLA Talk 1580 hosts will be there.
Yeah, man.
Flip the beat. On Saturday, June 21st, there are 2 big events you're invited to attend.
I can't wait to hear it.
This year, KBLA Talk 1580 continues its annual partnership with the Empowerment Congress for a community celebration and dialogue to educate, engage, and empower. This year's theme is Resilience in the Face of Chaos.
Can't wait to see what's up next.
Y'all ain't ready for this.
And new this year is our State of Black Women in Los Angeles Symposium, moderated by Dominique DePrima, with a luncheon to follow. Dominique will be leading a dialogue with some of the most impactful Black women leaders in Los Angeles, and you're invited to join.
This is it.
All of these events are free, but seating is limited, so you must register in advance at our KBLA1580.com website, where you can find all the details you need about each event.
Check it out.
It's our 4th anniversary, and we would love to celebrate it with you.
I love you guys so much. There's nothing you can do about it.
We're KBLA Talk 1580.
The only black talk radio station west of the Mississippi.
Thank you for having our black.
Happy anniversary, KBLA.
Love you. Love you.
Made fresh daily in the Mert Park,
Los Angeles, California.
You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
She'll
sensational rescue love that you leave torn apart.
Celebrating Juneteenth. We're also celebrating June as Black Music Month, and our featured artist of the day is Stevie Wonder, playing some of the best of Stevie's catalog in and out of these conversations throughout today's program. And in this hour, we're pleased to be in conversation with law professor Corinna Barrett Lain, discussing her new text, Secrets of the Killing State, the Untold Story of Lethal Injection. I asked her a question a moment ago, and she said there was a professional reason, but there's also a personal reason. The question I asked her was why her focus was specifically in this book on the story, the untold story of lethal injection. We've been talking broadly in this conversation about the death penalty all these years later in this country and where we are in this conversation. But I asked her why the focus specifically on the story of lethal injection. And she said there was a professional reason, which she gave, and there was a personal reason for her focus. And so I want now, as does the audience, to hear the personal reason.
Thanks, Tavis. So, I started researching. I was planning on writing a law review article. That's what we law professors do. and, about a year in, it became apparent that it was a book. And I really, really didn't want to write a book. I remember talking to a colleague of mine, another death penalty scholar, and saying, I don't want to be the lethal injection girl. Well, you can see how that worked out.
Yeah, I see.
But, so I set it down. I actually set that project down. And it was Christmas time, and I went to a conference out in San Diego in January of 2018. And it was a law professor conference, and the way law professors address each other, it's, hi, how are you doing? What are you working on? What are you working on? So I was getting this question. It was very stressful for me because, I was a year in, I was going to walk away, wasted time, I don't know. Or do I dig in? It's going to take years. And at one point, I was just really stressed out, so I didn't go to the 1:00 session, whatever that was. And I went back up to my hotel room. And this is the personal side. And I got on my knees. I call myself a free-range chicken Christian. I have a faith. And, I prayed and said, Lord, I don't want to write a book. I don't want to write a book on lethal injection. But if this is from you, if I knew this was from you, then that changes everything, everything. But speak clearly, because I'm not inclined to do it. And I was kneeling against the bed, and I just reached over there, the little side table there. I just reached over and pulled open the drawer to see if maybe there was a Gideon's Bible, something like that in there. And there was. And I cracked it open, and it literally did crack. I'm not sure that book had ever been open. But, and I'll tell you, top left, this is the passage, Psalm 45. My heart is overflowing with a good theme. I recite my composition concerning the king. My tongue is the pen of a ready writer. And I said, well, looks like I'm going to write a book on lethal injection. And then, as I was writing it, the other question was, is this an academic book for academics, or is this for the public? And I really wanted this to be a book for the public. It's based on research, but it's just storytelling. I'm just relentlessly documenting what the state is doing in our name. And I kept coming into these things where I was outraged and just thought, what? How can I not know this? I'm supposed to be some death penalty expert. How could I not know this? And if I don't know this, then nobody knows this. People don't know this. And so that is why I wrote it to be read for the general public.
First of all, let me just say I am grateful to you for your transparency in sharing with us the personal reason for writing this book, Secrets of the Killing State, the Untold Story of Lethal Injection. I revel in your openness about getting on your knees and going into prayer and supplication about this. And I appreciate that, one, because I too happen to be a follower of that first century Palestinian Jew named Jesus. So we have that in common. But what I find even more fascinating about your confession And my mind is kind of strange. My mind works in strange ways. But while you were talking, I went like to the other side of town. And here's what I mean by that. You're talking about about being on your knees praying about the direction that you should take when it came to whether to write this book or not. But it is those same, I'm putting this in air quotes, God-loving, God-fearing, fundamentalist Christians in this country, you know where I'm going with this, who have supported Donald Trump in the writing of that executive order, the signing of that executive order that I read earlier. That capital punishment, I quote again, is an essential tool for deterring and punishing those who would commit the most heinous crimes and acts of lethal violence against American citizens. Our founders knew well that only capital punishment can bring justice and restore order in response to such evil. For this and other reasons, capital punishment continues to enjoy broad popular support. You unpack that, you push back on that lie, on that narrative earlier in this conversation. But my point simply is that you are one person on your knees praying, asking God for direction, but a whole bunch of other God-loving people support Donald Trump in this executive order about capital punishment. How do you read? What's your sense of that dichotomy, as it were?
That's a great point. And you are so right about that. It's very, very interesting. And in the conversations I've had, I'm on a mini book tour, and I'll be doing a big book tour in the fall that I've had with people. One of the things I see is that they, the religious right, they point to, eye for an eye, it's in the Old Testament. And I just ask this question. And the question is, okay, but Jesus said, "You have heard it said that, but I say to you," and pointed exactly to that passage. So it's not one where it's like, well, you can, you look in different passages and you can find anything to support you. No. Hey, Christians, you say you are followers of the way. You say that you follow. Well, he's telling you this is not for you. It's not for you. And what I've come to see, and I'll just say I've got this, little 3-page epilogue in the book where I talk about this other thing that I learned, and it was about redemption on death row. And, I think we look at these people and say, well, you did this terrible thing, and, when you have the death penalty, it's like you're so bad, you have no redeeming quality. I look at that and say, that's a God special. That is a God special. God looks and says, when I get through with you, you are going to have a testimony like no other, because the deeper the despair, the more the brokenness, the more beautiful the testimony. And I want to give you an example of this because Alabama executed a guy. This was Gregory Hunt. He had been on death row for 35 years, and he wasn't the same person. And he not only found faith, but he started a church on death row. And the prison chaplain came in. Of course, I don't know any of these people. I'm just looking in the media. But this chaplain said, and I'm going to quote him, he said, "Rarely have I encountered such holiness." Right? And he started this church, and he is reaching, that guy is reaching the people that you and I and other people could never reach, right? Because he's been there. And so, there's a line in the epilogue where I say, as Saul became Paul, so it is for many on death row. And I just sort of want to scream to the conservative Christians, we're killing our Pauls, don't you? Like, we really are. And it's something that I didn't think about. Even as a death penalty scholar, for 18 years, I never thought about, wait a minute, who are these people at the end? Not at the time of their crime, not at the time of their trial, but who is it at the end? And at the end, so often, and I mean, look, I was studying lethal injection for 7 years. It took 7 years to finish this book. And so, I saw this again and again and again, where the person you think we're executing, that person's long gone.
I want to ask a quick follow-up about that. Quick follow-up when we come forward with Corinna Barrett Lain and her new book, Secrets of the Killing State, that is, the untold story of lethal injection. You're listening to her, and I'm glad about it on Tavis Smiley.
Hope, agency, dignity. This is Tavis Smiley.
Can you dig it? Come on!
We asked seniors how to prevent Medicare scams.
My best advice, if you get a phone call, do not talk to the person. These people are well trained. Don't talk to them.
They don't know me. They're just trying to scam me.
Don't be fooled. Hang up.
Just hang up.
Never give out your Medicare number.
They're going to get your number to put in a false claim.
If I get a call from someone, I don't pick up the phone. And should I pick up the phone and they ask for information, then I hang up.
How do you detect Medicare fraud?
Just like I check my credit card statements, I check my Medicare statements monthly.
Scammers can get a hold of your number, order medical devices through your account, and you're not even going to know about it if you don't look at your statement.
Check your statement every month. If you get your statement and you see something that you know you did not have done, you report it.
Call your senior Medicare Patrol.
To report Medicare fraud, call the Senior Medicare Patrol at 855-613-7080.
The doctor's office that accidentally mixed up your files has your social security number. The power company that mistakenly cut your service has your payment info. And the hotel that lost your reservation has your passport number. You need LifeLock because your personal info is in endless places that can expose you to identity thieves. LifeLock monitors hundreds of millions of data points every second. If your identity is stolen, we'll fix it, guaranteed or your money back. Save up to 40% with promo code NEWS at LifeLock.com. Terms apply.
Sometimes I struggle to get to sleep. My body stopped for the day, but my mind is still running. So I take ZQuil.
ZQuil, the world's #1 sleep aid brand, has a range of non-habit-forming products to fit you and your family's needs. Invest in a great night's sleep for the best you tomorrow.
I'm awake and ready to take on anything.
Better days start with ZQuil nights. Explore our products at ZQuil.com.
Use as directed. Keep out of reach of children. Texting enrolls you into recurring automated text messages. Consent not required to purchase. Message and data rates may apply.
Hey, Dan, how you doing? Haven't seen you around the gym for a while.
Yeah, I've really fallen off. Since I turned 40, I just don't get the results I used to get.
Could be lower testosterone.
Lower T?
Yeah, I went through it a while back. Once you hit 40, your body has less free testosterone. I got Nugenix Total T, and it's made a huge difference for me.
I've seen that ad on TV. Is it for real?
Oh, yeah. The key ingredient is something called Tesnor, which helps boost free and total testosterone levels to help you trim up and stay lean.
And it's made a difference for you?
Man, I feel like I'm in my 20s again, at work, in the gym, and in the bedroom.
Are they still giving out complimentary bottles for people to try it for themselves?
Yeah, you just need to send them a text.
Text EQUAL to 321321 right now for your complimentary bottle of Nugenix Total T, the #1 selling testosterone booster at GNC. Plus, text now and we'll include a bottle of Nugenix Thermo, our most powerful fat incinerator ever, to help you get back into shape fast, absolutely free. Text EQUAL to 321321. That's EQUAL to 321321.
Let's get back to more of this rich dialogue with Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley and Corinna Barrett Lain, author of the new book, Secrets of the Killing State, the untold story of lethal injection. My time is getting tight. Let me move more swiftly here now. I was thinking, and I wanted to ask you this, I will now, whether or not, to your mind, there's any linkage between where you started this conversation almost an hour ago, talking about the executions that we witness in this country tend to be overwhelmingly for the murder of white people. Is there a link between that factoid and why these white Christian fundamentalists support Donald Trump in reestablishing the death penalty as we know it?
I think instinctively, I think that's true.
Yeah.
We know that this movement of the religious right is also part of, this is white Christian nationalism. And so, even outside the death penalty, I mean, that's what they're talking about, white Christian nationalism. So perhaps it shouldn't be a surprise to see that these are, executions of for white victims. By the way, I'm glad you circled around to this because I wanted to throw out two other stats. In 2022, I looked at this for people executed for interracial murder. And look, most murder is not interracial.
Correct.
Most of it is intraracial.
That's right.
But for interracial murder, 93% of those executions were for Black on white crime. Only 7% was white on Black crime. And meanwhile, Blacks are 50% of victims. And here in Virginia, we don't have the death penalty anymore. But I looked at, at that stat. In the modern era, there were 36 offenders who were Black executed for killing a white victim, 4 white offenders executed for killing a Black victim. So that's where you see those numbers especially stark. But you started this by asking about the death penalty. And so I would love to just circle around and tell you, I started with this research question, right? Why can't states figure this out? I ended with a different question that goes to your point. And it was, why are states sticking with lethal injection?
Hold that thought. When we come forward, I'm going to let you address both of those questions in our remaining moments. You're listening to Corinna Barrett Lain on Tavis Smiley.
What's your quarrel with the world? You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
If you're like me, 60 and retired, making ends meet, especially here at the supermarket and drugstore, is tough. I'm so blessed to have found benefitscheckup.org. It's a free and confidential website from the National Council on Aging that connected me to $1,200 a year in programs that help pay for food, medicine, utilities, and more. Maybe it can help you. benefitscheckup.org.
You know where you want to go in life, and City National Bank can help. City National knows the dedication it takes to build your vision for the future into a reality, and our team is here for you. We have a wide range of options to help, from personal savings accounts to interest-bearing money market savings accounts and more, all designed to help you get where you want to go. City National, here for every stage of the journey. Learn more at cnb.com. City National Bank is a subsidiary of Royal Bank of Canada, member FDIC.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 is committed to self-care and community well-being. Walk Good LA was formed in June 2020, inspired by the Black Lives Matter movement and the beginning stages of the COVID-19 pandemic. What began as a few minutes of breath work and yoga meditation before protests against police brutality turned into a safe space for the community to heal in hard times. The immensely positive response from the community transformed the momentum into a movement. Today, Walk Good LA is a Black and brown-led community wellness organization based in Los Angeles. They provide spaces for healing through community yoga classes, guided meditations, hikes, run clubs, and other activations throughout Los Angeles that attract hundreds of members weekly. With the help of Propel and Michael B. Jordan, they now have a yoga and wellness studio in Los Angeles called the Walk Good Yard. To join their mailing list and connect with healing spaces, please visit walkgoodla.org. That's walkgoodla.org. Or find them on Instagram at walkgoodla. This is a community call to action, a community call to healing from KBLA Talk 1580.
The following is a paid advertisement by Family Vacation Getaways with the purpose of soliciting sales of vacation ownership. For complete details, please visit fvgradio.com. If you want a 100% complimentary stay at a luxury resort in Cancun, airfare not included, then Family Vacation Getaways is your ticket to paradise. See website for complete details. We're giving away 5 days and 4 nights to the first 50 callers who can name an animal that lays eggs and is not a bird. An animal that lays eggs and is not a bird. Do you know it? Call now, 800-868-6431. 800-868-6431. You're also eligible for an exciting bonus vacation to Orlando, Florida for just $498. And don't worry about anything ruining your plans. We can extend your travel up to 18 months. Name an animal that lays eggs and is not a bird, and get a complimentary Cancun resort stay and an optional bonus vacation to Orlando for just $498. What are you waiting for? Call 800-868-6431. 800-868-6431 and give us your answer. The proceeding is not a contest and is a paid advertisement by Family Vacation Getaways and not sponsored by this program or its affiliates.
Sometimes he fails at fitting in, but we're okay with that You're inside the Tavis Smiley Show.
You are indeed. I'm glad to have you here with Corinna Barrett Lain, author of the new book, Secrets of the Killing State, The Untold Story of Lethal Injection. I've got 4 minutes left, 3.5 to be exact. I'll give it all to you, Professor. You started with one question, ended with another. Tell me more.
Thanks. So my question became, why are they sticking with lethal injection? You know, they can't get the drugs. They can't get medical professionals to help them. They can't get in the veins. It turns out, you know, people on death row have notoriously bad veins. It's super complicated. So the botch rate is two times that of every other method. It's not humane, and it's ridiculously expensive. Arizona spent $1.5 million on drugs for 3 executions in 2022. It botched all 3. I document the states breaking state and federal laws, falsifying prescriptions, all sorts of things. So I'm like, you know, they're pushing this huge rock uphill. And it's not even humane. Why are they doing it? And here's what I came up with. Lethal injection just has one thing that it does well. Just one. And that is it hides the violence of state killing. You know, with lethal injection, we don't have to deal with the sight of blood or the smell of burning flesh or people gasping in the, you know, nitrogen gas in the gas chamber or gas mask. All of those are potent reminders of what the state is actually doing. All of those show the state violence that is the death penalty. With lethal injection, we don't have any of that. We get to think about the prisoner just drifting off to forever sleep. And that makes it really easy to not think about what the state is doing. Out of sight, out of mind. And so, you know, when I think about it, when we talk about the death penalty in this country, we debate it in the abstract, right? Like, I'm for the death penalty or I'm against it, often on tribal lines. But it's all in the abstract. Lethal injection keeps the death penalty abstract. It allows the death penalty to just be an idea, which allows the political uses to flourish while burying the brutality that executions entail. And I just think that must be mighty important to sustaining the death penalty, because states have gone to untold, you know, measures to maintain the facade of an execution that actually looks like something else.
The book is called Secrets of the Killing State, The Untold Story of Lethal Injection. The author is law professor Corinna Barrett Lain. I knew this would be a great hour in terms of just empowering us with information, but the stats and the data and the frame that Professor Barrett Lain has created for us to wrestle inside of has been just mind-boggling for me. So I thank you for your work and your witness. That's what I'd call it, a work and a witness. I thank you for the text. I thank you for the conversation. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Tavis, for having me on and for shining a light on this important topic. And thanks for all that you do for the community.
Thank you very much for saying that. More of Tavis Smiley when we come forward.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Alexandria Ikamoni with BIN News Now.
No Kings, no King! No Kings, no King!
Organizers of the No Kings protest have called it one of the largest mass demonstrations in U.S. history and have scheduled another round on July 17th in honor of civil rights activist John Lewis, who died on that day in 2020. Reparations may be coming for some people who live in California. One bill would establish the process for verifying genealogical eligibility, allowing access to reparations for those who can prove their lineage. The other proposes the creation of the Bureau for Descendants of American Slavery, a state agency dedicated to providing historical truth about slavery. Former President Joe Biden is in Galveston, Texas for a Juneteenth event. Juneteenth marks the date, June 19, 1865, when slaves in Texas finally learned about the Emancipation Proclamation. Get BIN News Now on demand on the iHeartRadio app.
Temecula Valley Balloon and Wine Music Festival by Events.com is happening June 20th through 22nd, featuring Walker Hayes, Cody Jinks, Alabama, Russell Dickerson, Midland, Big and Rich, and more. Get 3-day or single-day tickets now at TemeculaValleyFestival.com.
Is this the
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
We now know that Dodgers owner Mark Walter has no limits on his bank account. Walter paid $10 billion to buy the Lakers, the highest sales price in history for a U.S. sports franchise. The purchase ends a remarkable 46-year era for the Buss family. Jerry Buss bought the Lakers in 1979 for $67.5 million. The Lakers won 11 NBA championships for the Buss family. This year's NBA championship could be decided tonight. It's Game 6 of the NBA Finals in Indianapolis. With a 3-2 lead, the Oklahoma City Thunder can claim their first NBA title with a win over the Indiana Pacers. 5:30 tip-off on ABC. The Angels beat the Yankees again in New York. They hung on for a 3-2 win. They can sweep the 4-game series with a win today in New York. The Dodgers got a game-winning homer from Will Smith in the bottom of the ninth to beat San Diego 4-3. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
LA's newest soul food restaurant is getting spectacular reviews.
Great place with amazing food. The Sunday champagne brunch is fabulous. I saw the place on IG. We tried it for lunch. We were blown away by the food and the service. The restaurant has an inviting atmosphere and a dynamic vibe.
Over the years, Lionel has catered most major Black events in Los Angeles, including all of our KBLA Talk 1580 gatherings. But now he has his own spot, Lionel's Soul Food Cuisine, and you need to check it out at 8501 South Vermont Avenue in Los Angeles. Oxtails, baked or fried chicken, meatloaf, turkey chops, pork chops, catfish, short ribs, and all the fixins. Collard greens, mac and cheese, yams, red beans, black-eyed peas, and more. And of course, hot water cornbread, satisfying drinks, and delicious desserts. Lionel's is a great place for brunch, lunch, or dinner. If it's good enough for us, it's good enough for you, because we've got your black. So, head on over to Lionel's Soul Food Cuisine at 8501 South Vermont Avenue in Los Angeles and tell Lionel you heard about it on KBLA Talk 1580.